A very good morning, students. Welcome back to online session on Programming for Problem Solving course. In our previous session, we started the data types concept, and we have defined the data types and we have categorized the data types, and we have also seen few of the data types with examples. Okay, so when we were discussing about integers, we got a concept called signed and unsigned integers. So I told you that whenever we are dealing with signed integers, the range of values which we are going to store into that signed integers, it will be half, isn't it? It will get halved, and half of the values will get with positive sign, and half of the values we will get with negative signs. But when we are talking about unsigned integers, simply what is happening? The range is doubling, isn't it? We are getting a double range with only positive values. With only positive values. That concept we need to understand with a more clarity. That is the reason why I stopped the last lecture over there itself, last class over there itself. So in today's session, I will give the clarity how the range will increase when you allocate more amount of memory to a particular variable. Okay, so we'll start with a very basic level. So I will not take much time over here because we need to do many things in today's class. So I'm simply taking, first of all, we'll discuss the memory units. Okay, memory units. So the basic unit of your memory is bit, isn't it? So 1 bit. This is the basic unit. We'll start with 1 bit only. So 1 bit in the sense it is a small, very small portion of the memory where you can store only 1 bit of memory. 1 bit in the sense either 1 you can store or either 0 you can store. So as you know, in your binary language, in your machine language, we are going to have only zeros and ones, isn't it? Whatever number, whatever numerical value you want to store, you have to store in binary number only, binary form only. Whatever character you want to store, you have to store in binary form only. So that binary form, it will have only ones and zeros, zeros and ones. So 1 bit of memory, in the sense it is the basic unit or the smallest portion of your memory where you can store only 1 bit. Only 1 bit. That is either 0 or 1. You have to remember. So to understand this 1 bit, what I will do is I will take a small block. So let us say when you are saying 1 bit, how many blocks, how many memory blocks the computer will allocate? Only 1 block of memory the computer will allocate. This is the block capable of holding either 0 or 1. We can't store more than 1 bit into this block. So what you can store over here? Either 0 you can store or 1 you can store. None of the others. Either 0 you can store or 1 you can store into this block. Hopefully you understood. Because we don't have any other characters, isn't it? We don't have any other characters in your binary alphabet. We have either 0 or 1. And this bit of memory is capable of storing either 0 or 1. Okay, we'll move further and we'll see. So such bits, such memory bits, if you collect, okay, such memory bits, if you collect, what you will have? Uh, okay, so 8 bits, if you collect, it will become a byte. It will become a byte. 1 byte. 8 bits is equals to 1 byte. So 8 bits in the sense, how many blocks? 8 blocks. You will get how many blocks? You will get 8 blocks you will get. Okay. So before going to that, let us say we need to understand one more thing. So one byte in the 1 bit in the sense you can store either 0 or 1. This you understood. So if 2 bits, how many values you can store? 2 bits. If they are 2 bits, how many values you can store? So you will now you will get combinations. As you have 2 characters in your alphabet, now you will get combinations. So if 2 bits in the sense, what are the combinations of values you can store over here? You can store 0 here, 1 here. That is one combination. 0, 0, another combination. Likewise, how many combinations you have? By using 2 characters and using 2 bits, you can store 0, 0, you can store 0, 1, you can store 1, 0, and you can store 1, 1. No other. Isn't it? No other. So if it is 1 means, if 1 bit in the sense, how many characters you can store? I mean, how many possible range of values you can store? It is simply 2 power 1. Isn't it? It is simply 2 power 1. If you have 2 bits, this is 2 bits, isn't it? If you have 2 bits, how many possible range of values you can store over here? 2 power 2, that is 4, as you can see here. 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1. So here either 0, 0 you can store, 0, 1 you can store, 1, 0 you can store, 1, 1 you can store. So all those are my possibilities when I have 2 bits allocated. Okay. In the same way, if we have 4 bits, I mean 3 bits allocated, what are my possibilities? If I have 3 bits allocated, so I'm assuming that I have 3 bits allocated. So this is my 3 bits. So if I have 3 bits, what are my possibilities? Yeah, quickly, 0, 0, 0 will start with. Then 0, 0, 1. Okay. Then 0, 1, 0. Then 0, 1, 1. After that, 1, 0, 0. 1, 0, 1. Okay. 1, 1, 0. Then 1, 1, 1. So how many possibilities? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we are getting 2 power 3. That is nothing but 8 combinations. So the number of bits, simply take it to the power of 2. Okay. The number of bits, simply take it to the power of 2 to get the range of values. So now in this 3 bits, these much of range of values I can store. This much of range of values I can store. Hopefully you understood. So this is in case of unsigned. Unsigned means because we are not allocating any bit for sign. Okay. So let us suppose you want to maintain the sign as well. Along with the value, you want to maintain the, so this concept is for unsigned. We set for unsigned. So if you want to maintain the sign as well. So sign in the sense, sign is what? Yeah, sign means either positive or negative. Either positive or negative. If it is, yeah. So here in this characters, what we have only 2 characters. So what we do, we'll allocate 1 character for positive value and 1 character for negative value, like this. So 0 for positive and 1 for negative. Likewise, we will consider 0 for positive and 1 for negative. So what we do now, whatever memory they are allocating, whatever bits of memory they are allocating, will allocate 1 bit. We reserve 1 bit so that to store the sign. So that to store the sign. If it is signed integer, simply what we are doing, 1 bit we are allocating to store the sign. So same thing. See, if it is 1 bit, if you allocate that 1 bit to store the sign, so there are no other bits to store the value, isn't it? So 1 bit case we are excluding. We are simply excluding the 1 bit case. So we start with 2 bits. Okay, we start with 2 bits, and in that we will allocate 1 bit. We will reserve 1 bit for storing the sign. So now you see how the range of values will differ. So what we are doing, simply, yeah, in these 2 bits, 1 bit I am allocating for storing the sign. So this bit, let us assume I am allocating for storing the sign. So if it is positive value, what I store over here, I will store 0. If it is negative value, I will store 1. Likewise. So now how many bytes I have left with? I have left with only 1 byte, 1 bit to store the values. 1 bit to store the values. So using 1 bit, how much range we will get? 2 power 1. That is 2 only. So here in this 1 bit, either 0 or 1 I can store. So 2 power 1 in the sense, 2 power 1 in the sense 2 only. Okay. Positive side, 2 values, and negative side 2 values. So if you include the 0 also, so then what will happen? Positive side 2 values and negative side only 1 value you will get. So sorry, positive side only 1 value and negative side 2 values you will get, including the 0. So how come it will come? See here. Okay, so here in this we can store only 2. Okay, we can store only 2. So here either 0 it will store or 1 it will store. So 0 we are including, okay, 1 with positive, 1 with negative, and 0. Okay, so likewise 0 positive direction plus 1 and negative direction, okay, minus 1. No other range of value we can store in this one. Okay, no other range of value we can store into this one. We can store either 0 here. 0 indicates both positive, negative, both means because we are not going to have any negative 0, isn't it? So positive, negative, same thing. If you store 0, it will indicate 0 only. But when you store 1, okay, but when you store 1, yeah, you can have 0 1, that is positive 1, 1 1, that is negative 1, likewise. So if you have 3 bits and you are allocating 1 bit for sign, if you have 3 bits and 1 bit for sign, so 0 for positive and 1 for negative, so this bit we are allocating for sign, and now we have how many bits? 2 bits. So how many values we can store in these 2 bits? 2 power 2 plus, for 0 1 additional we can take, 2 power 2 plus 1. So total how much? 2 power 2 plus 1, in the sense total 5 values we can store. So positive 2 we can store, okay, positive 1 we can store. Then okay, we will start, okay, left side always we take negative values, right? So negative 2 we can store, negative 1 we can store, 0 we can store, 1 we can store, 2 we can store. So because 0 0 indicates what? 0 0 indicates 0, okay, irrespective to the sign. Positive 0, negative 0, same thing. Okay, so then 0 1, okay, 0 1 indicates 1. In binary language 0 1 means 1. So if it is 1, if you take with 0 0 0 1, that is positive 1. Okay, 0 0 1, that is positive 1. What other possibility? 0 1, after that 1 0. Okay, 1 0 means it is 2. Okay, 1 0 means it is 2. So then 1 1 also we can store, right? So minus 3, here also plus 3 we can store, like this. Minus 3 and plus 3 also we can store. So totally how many values we are getting? So simply in positive direction 3 values, in negative direction 3 values we are getting, likewise including the 0, likewise we are getting. So 2 power 3 plus 1. So like this you can remember, 2 power 3 plus 2 power 2 plus 1, like this you can remember. So in this way, whenever the signed integers we are storing, simply the range is getting half, sorry, unsigned integers when we are storing, simply the range is getting doubled, and signed integers when we are storing, the range is getting half. You have to remember in this way. So yeah, here this memory terminology also have to give. So we started like this. So I will take it to yeah, here. So 8 bits is equals to 1 byte we said, then 8 bytes, isn't it? Sorry, not 8, 1024 bytes. 1024 bytes equals to what? It is 1 kilobyte. We say 1 kilobyte. 1 kilo uh, byte. Likewise, same thing. 1024 kilobytes now. 1024 kilobytes, it will become 1 megabyte. I have to take kilo here. Kilobyte. 1024 kilobytes, it will become 1 mega. Yeah, that is capital only. Mega byte. So same thing, 1024 megabytes, it will become 1 gigabyte. Okay, same thing, 1024 gigabytes, it will become 1 terabyte. again 1024 terabytes, 1 petabyte. And this one I have to put numerical, 1 petabyte. Same thing, 1024 petabytes. Yeah, 1024 petabytes. We have other terminologies also for the memory. This is the standardized one and we are considering this one. So if you see any other thing over the internet or on the internet, just reconsider that one. Okay. So 1 zettabyte. Zettabyte. And then 1024 zettabyte. Yottabyte we have 1 yottabyte. Likewise, we have further considerations in this memory management, but we discuss up to this. Okay, we'll not go any further and we'll discuss up to this. So simply remember this terminology, this memory units for your understanding. So if you see, it is very easy to remember. So just you have to understand the right side stuff. So that is first we'll start with byte, 8 bits combination, byte, 1 byte, then all are 1024s. Okay, 1024 bytes, it will become kilobyte. 1024 kilobytes, it will become megabyte. 1024 megabytes, it will become gigabyte. 1024 gigabytes, terabyte. 1024 terabytes, petabyte. 1024 petabytes, zettabyte. 1024 zettabytes, it is yottabyte. So likewise, you can remember. We have further categorization. I'm not considering all those things. So up to this, I mean, 1 yottabyte, in the sense it is very huge amount of memory. It is very huge amount of memory, and we don't go any far. I mean, in our discussion, if even if you go to the supercomputers, they will having like memories in zettabytes. Okay, nowhere we deal with like this yottabytes. Yottabytes, they are very large, very huge data centers generally. So like we have big e-commerce companies like Amazon, eBay, all these people, they will maintain such huge data centers in terms of yottabytes. Okay, so the Google server, it is like very very huge, very enormous, and we cannot predict the actual memory size, because the prediction when you do now, at that time it will automatically go beyond your expectation. So let us say at some point you are doing the estimation that it is having some 2 terabytes. By the time you do the estimation, it will cross 4 5 terabytes. So it is meaningless to have the estimation of your Google server. Okay, lots of websites daily they are adding, lots of stuff they daily they are adding, and the videos what you are uploading to the YouTube, the Facebook, all those things will contribute to your Google server. Okay, so we cannot estimate, we cannot predict the actual size of your Google server because it is very huge. Okay, at research level they will do such an estimation. Okay, it is too early to do, too early to predict the size of your Google server or size of your such very huge e-commerce servers. Okay, so quickly we go and we see what we have in our, yeah, already we understood. So whenever we do store the sign along with the numerical, the range will get half. Okay, and if you don't store the sign, the range will get doubled. Simply whenever we are storing the what we call um, sign of the numerical, we are allocating or we are reserving 1 bit for storing the sign. We are reserving 1 bit for storing the sign, and that reservation will half your complete range of values. And if there is no reservation for that bit, the sign bit, then automatically your range will get doubled. So storing the unsigned integers, you will get double range, and storing the signed integers, you will get half range. That thing you remember. Okay, the conclusion of that explanation is this thing. So whenever we are reserving one bit for sign, the range will get half. Whenever we are not reserving any bit for sign, the range will get doubled. So signed in the sense we are storing one bit, we are reserving one bit for sign, and unsigned in the sense we are not reserving any bit for sign. So with that understanding, quickly we go and we see what we have in our slide. So data types, we started, we defined the data types as a set of values and a set of operations that can be applied on those values. Okay, a type not only defines the range of values, or a type not only tells the compiler what type of value we are going to store in a particular variable, but also allocates the memory, but also tells how much size of memory it has to allocate for that particular variable. Example we discussed, a light switch. Then in C language, we divided the types into four major categories: void type, integral type, and floating point type, and finally the derived type. And we said we are going to discuss only void, integral, and floating point, and derived type we are going to discuss in our further classes. Okay, integral types, they are further categorized like boolean, character, and integers, and real point, they have been categorized as real, imaginary, and complex. So we said the first three types are the primitive types, and the last type, that is derived type, it is not primitive, it is dependent on primitive. So that is the reason why we are calling it as derived type. You have to understand this thing. Okay, primitive types, derived types. Primitive types are independent types, but derived types are dependent types, and on which they are depending, in the sense they are depending on primitive types. Derived types are dependent on primitive types. Okay, so void type, no values, no operations, simply to indicate that you are not returning any value, or you are not passing any value, we are using this void type. And as well as to declare a generic pointer, we are using this void type. So very soon we said we are going to use this void type in our programming, and as well as this void pointer in our programming. Then integral types, we said they have been divided. Integral means we can store only the whole numbers, no precision part, no fractional part. So only the whole numbers you can store inside the integers, and these integers, they are further categorized or further divided into four general types. So sorry, three general types. Integral types, three general types, then boolean, character, and integer. Boolean, character, and integer types. So first one, boolean, to store the what we call boolean values like true and false, we use these boolean types. And inside boolean types, we have only two possible values that we can store, either true or false. So before C99, there is no such thing called boolean type, and they used only the integers to indicate the boolean types. So 0 means it is a false, I mean 0 means it is true, and all other like positive values or negative values, they will indicate false case. 0 indicates true case, and all other values indicates false case. Okay, so likewise they used positive or negative is used to represent the true, and a 0 is used to indicate the false. So sorry, I have mistaken over here. See, in C99, before C99, only integers were used to represent the boolean values. Okay, a non-zero value, non-zero in the sense either positive value or a negative value, is used to indicate the true case. Okay, this positive or negative value is used to indicate the true case. Here we have true case, and all other, I mean 0 is used to indicate the false case. So 0 means false, and these things, positive or negative values, means true. So likewise the boolean values represented before the invention of this boolean type, that is before C99. But after C99, we have the flexibility of using boolean types in our programming. So to store a false case, we are using 0, and to store a true case, we are using 1. 0 is for false case and 1 is for true case. So the keyword bool, B-O-O-L, is used to indicate the boolean type. Then the characters, we said we have two different types of characters: normal character CHAR and wide character set WCHAR underscore T. Here you have to consider this underscore. We have the underscore over here. Yeah, here it is working. So yeah, underscore, this underscore you have to see. Character and wide character set. Character means only 1 byte, wide character set in the sense 2 bytes. 1 byte, how many possible combinations? 1 byte in the sense how many bits? How many bits? 8 bits. So that is 2 power 8 combinations. 2 power 8 in the sense, if you tally out, 256. So how many different values we can store? 256 different values we can store using 1 byte. And your character, it will consume 1 byte of memory in your computer. And if it is wide character set, 2 bytes. 2 bytes in the sense 16 bits. 16 bits in the sense how many range of values? 2 power 16. Okay, 2 power 16, it is a huge value. And why we are using this wide character set in the sense to support non-English characters like Arabic characters, Urdu, Hebrew, Telugu, Hindi. In order to support all those things in our programming, we are using this wide character set. So as I said, this wide character set in our programming we are not going to use, and it is completely dedicated for research purpose. If you are implementing an application native to a particular language, so suppose, let us say if you are writing a C application which should have all the stuff in Telugu, okay, all the stuff in Telugu, like you are implementing your application for Telangana government, let us assume. So Telangana government, they use all the Telugu characters, isn't it? In their application they want all Telugu characters. But if you go with normal character, it will consume only 1 byte and it will not support Telugu characters. Then what you have to do, as it comes under your research level, production level, definitely you have to go for wide character set to support the Telugu characters. Okay, hopefully you understood. So many computers will use only 1 byte to store char, and 1 byte means 8 bits. 8 bits in the sense 2 power 2 power 8, that is 256 different possible characters. Okay, so the way we see A and the way we see X, the graphical representation, we see A as like this and we see X as like this. Your computer will not see A as like this or X as like this. Simply we have a binary equivalent value associated with this A and the binary equivalent value associated with this X as well. Not only to A and X, for all the keyboard characters we have binary associated values. And for our simple understanding, A's binary value they have given over here this much, and X binary value they have given over here this much. So like this, we see A as normal graphical representation, but the computer will see A as like this. Same thing for X, the computer will see X like this. Okay, so then we have integers. Integers, we said we can store only whole numbers without fractional part. And integers, we have short int, long int, long int, short int, long int, and long int. 4 different types. And where exactly these things will differ? I mean, the first thing, that is short, int, long, and long. Where exactly they will differ means in terms of storage area. In terms of storage area and in terms of what we call range of values that they store. Okay, so for short int, 2 bytes will get, int 4 bytes, long int 4 bytes, and long int 8 bytes. Likewise, the memory will be allocated. So we quickly go and see. Yeah, here see, short int, it is allocating only 2 bytes, and the range of values, the minimum value we can store minus 32,768 and the maximum value plus 32,767, and where that one gone means for storing 0. Okay, likewise for integers we have only 4, it will allocate 4 bytes of memory, and the range of value it will go like this. Okay, this is a very huge value for integer. For long integer also same thing, 4 bytes, so the range of value this much. For long integer, yeah, 8 bytes it will allocate. 8 bytes in the sense how many bits? 32 bits. 32 bits we will get, and the range to get, you have to tally 2 power 32. 2 power 32. It is a very huge value, and that huge value we have represented over here. This is for positive way and this is for negative way. This is negative and this is positive. So in between we'll have 0, and positive direction you can store up to this value, and negative direction you can store up to this value. Okay, if you exceed the range, let us suppose if you store 32,768, you are saying na. So if you store minus 32,769, then what will happen? It will go in the positive side. It will go in the positive side, and it will store this value minus 32,769 as plus 32,767. It will store like this. And if you do one more increment, minus 32,770, if you store, okay, it will come from this direction. It will go in a cyclic way. It will come in this direction and it will take 32,766. Likewise, it will store. All these are very advanced concepts and none to your knowledge. So I'm just giving the explanation so you remember. Uh, yes, short int, as I said, the size of short integer is smaller than the size of integer, which is also smaller than the size of long. In further, it is smaller than size of long. In this way you can remember. Already I told you the concept of signed and unsigned, and we also discussed 0 for plus and 1 for minus, isn't it? 0 for storing plus sign and 1 for storing minus sign. And if it is signed integer, the range simply will get half, and if it is unsigned integer, will get the range doubled. Okay, will get the range doubled. See here, if an integer is unsigned, it can store a positive number that is twice as large as the signed integer. If it is unsigned, twice as large in the sense the range is simply getting doubled. Okay, the following table list the difficult types of, okay, here, see here, if it is short integer, let us say if you are storing short integer, then 2 bytes we said, and minus 32,768 to plus 32,767, we said this much of range. So that to have an understanding. So minus side we are storing up to 32,768 including 0, and positive side we are storing 32,767. Like this we said. This is for signed integer. This is for signed short. This is for signed short integer. But if you store unsigned short integer, unsigned short integer, then what will happen? Unsigned short integer in the sense no sign will store only positives. So then what we said, the range will get doubled. If you're not dedicating any bit to store the sign, then what will happen? Then the range will get doubled. So how much range you will get in this case? 32. Yeah, this already we have now. Here we have already this thing. So I will just take the eraser to erase all these things. So if you are storing unsigned, if you are storing signed means you will get like this. If you are storing signed means you will get like this. This is for signed. Once again I am writing signed short int. If you are declaring a variable like this, signed short int, or in short we can say this as signed short. Like this we can say. If you're storing an integer, short integer like this, signed short, then your range will be like this, positive as well as negative, both you will get. But if it is an unsigned, then what will happen? Simply add this 32,768. Then what will happen here? You will get 8715, right? Then this 6612 113, 14 115. Okay, yeah, here 1, then 5, then 6, 65,536, something like this you will get 536, because 1 will get added automatically. So here for adding that one we have a big explanation, so that I don't want to give it to you at this early stage. So 0 to 65,536, the range will get what? If it is an unsigned short int, the range will get doubled, and that range is simply 65,536. So this is your positive, negative, and this is your positive in case of signed short. But if it is unsigned short, simply the range will get doubled and you will get like this. This is not only for short, this is true for all integer, long integer, long integer likewise. So if you take integer, if it is signed integer, the range will be distributed like this. But if it is unsigned, then unsigned, what will happen? Simply add these two. Add this one as well as this one to get the actual range. Same thing for long int and as well as long int. Then we have floating point type. Yeah, in C we have three different floating point types, that is real, imaginary and complex. Real numbers, imaginary numbers and complex numbers. Floating point types are always signed. There is no concept of unsigned in floating point types. You cannot make an unsigned floating point type. Unsigned real or unsigned imaginary or unsigned complex, it is not possible. Always they are signed only. Always whenever you are storing a floating point type in your computer, you have to dedicate 1 bit for storing the sign of that number. Okay, only in integers we have the concept of signed and unsigned. In floating point we don't have any such concept. Okay, so integer type, floating point type, we said they have been categorized into three: real, imaginary and complex. So quickly, what are real numbers? Real numbers hold values that consist of a fractional part. Okay, a whole number, that is the integral part, as well as the fractional part. Whole number will have integer part we have, as well as the fractional part we have. If you consider this as an example, 49 is the whole number and 0.32 is the fractional part. So this is your real number. This 49.232 is the real number. And these real numbers, they are further categorized into three. That is float, double, long double. Again, the categorization based on the size and the range of values that it can hold. Float is the smallest entity, then double we have, then long double we have. Float, double, long double, likewise. Float, double, long double. Size of float is smaller than size of double, which is smaller than size of long double. Okay, real types are also organized from smaller to, yeah, that representation here I have shown. You can see a small box I have taken to represent float, a slightly bigger box for double, and more bigger box for long double. Likewise, I have taken to represent these three data types. You have to represent the remember this graphical representation. So size of float, which is less than size of double, which is in turn less than size of long double. So if you see the range of values and all, yeah, they are actually very huge values. In fractional parts, as we are allocating more memory, and the range will go beyond our expectation, so that is the reason why we are not discussing all those things. And moreover, in your examination you don't need to draw that boxes and range of values to write. Okay, don't write all those things. Okay, then we have the imaginary number in your mathematics, that is under root minus 1, isn't it? Under root minus 1. So that under root minus 1, you already know it is an imaginary number and we cannot predict the value of under root minus 1. So that is the reason why all such numbers, all such numericals, we are calling them as imaginary types, isn't it? Simply, we are calling them as imaginary types. So imaginary types, to represent in your C programming, we have a special type known as imaginary type. And this special imaginary type, it is also categorized into three: float imaginary, double imaginary and long double imaginary. Float imaginary, double imaginary and long double imaginary. Float imaginary, double imaginary and long double imaginary. And as I told you, we don't do any programming using these imaginary numbers, and it is purely for scientific and research purpose. It is purely dedicated to scientific and research purpose. You are not going to use these imaginary types in our programming. Or we can do only one program on imaginary numbers and one program on complex numbers, just to have the content ready for you, so that if they ask you in examination, you can put that content over there. Okay, so imaginary numbers, already you know, under root minus 1, and we generally represent that imaginary with I, isn't it? I means under root minus 1, or I square means what? I square means it is minus 1. Isn't it? All of you might be aware of these imaginary numbers because you have studied this in your mathematics. So that is the reason why I am not going into deep, because I am not your mathematics faculty. I have to teach you programming over here, and just because this imaginary type is included in your C programming, I am giving this idea over here. Okay, so these imaginary types, they are also categorized into three: float imaginary, double imaginary and long double imaginary. So then we have the complex number. So complex number is nothing but A plus bi, I guess, isn't it? A plus bi. So it is going to have one real part as well as imaginary part. A complex number is a combination of real number. Real number is nothing but this A. This A is your real, okay? And imaginary is nothing because here we have multiple of I, isn't it? So this will become your imaginary number. This will become your imaginary number. So a complex number is a combination of a real number and an imaginary number. Okay. Again, complex numbers also we have three different types: float complex, double complex, and long double complex. Okay. So yeah, this is the quick summary of all your data types. What void type, to represent void, we use the keyword void. Void means no values, no operations. Then integral, we have integral, boolean, character, and integer. Boolean, to represent boolean, we use the keyword BOOL. To represent character, we have two keywords, character and void character set. The purpose of using character, void character set, I have already explained. Then integers, we have four different types: short int, long int, long int. Or we can also call it as short means simply short integer, int means integer only, long means long integer, long means long integer. Likewise. Then we have floating point type. Real floating point type, that is float double, long double. Imaginary floating point type, float imaginary, double imaginary, long double imaginary. Complex floating point type, that is complex float, complex double, complex imaginary, long double, complex. So likewise. So you can remember all these data types. Here I have given the quick summary. So by following this summary, you can remember all the data types according to their order, according to their size, according to their range of values. Okay, so yeah, quickly I will check how much time is left. So still we have, yeah, more time we have. So we have to discuss the concept of variable. So a variable in your mathematics, we already aware of this variable stuff, isn't it? We whenever we are assuming something as x in your mathematics, so let x be something like that we assume, isn't it? Let the value which is not known to us as x, like that we do in our mathematics. So that x, that unknown value, when you are using in your equations inside the mathematics, at every step of the equation the value will differ, isn't it? It will vary. That is the reason why we are calling it as a variable. And finally, after solving the complete equation, you will get a fixed value for that variable, isn't it? You will get a fixed value for that variable. So we'll assume something as x at the very beginning of your mathematics problem, and we do the solving of that problem in order to get that x value. And finally, at the end of the solution, you will get a fixed value for that x. So that variable will not be a variable anymore after you solve and get the value of that variable, isn't it? Throughout your program, you will consider that x as a variable because it can be anything. The value is unknown. It can be anything. So that is the reason why we are calling it as a variable. But when it comes to the end of your solution, it will become fixed because now you know the value of that x. Isn't it? Likewise, in your programming also, whenever you want to store a value into a variable, whenever you want to store a value into your program, you have to use a variable. A variable is something which varies, isn't it? Whose value varies throughout the execution of your program, throughout the execution of your solution. Because for what you are writing the program, to get the solution only, we are writing the program. So throughout our solution, the values which varies, we call them as variables. So variables are nothing but they are the named memory locations. So inside your computer, they are going to consume some memory for storing the value, because whenever we are storing the value, the computer is remembering that value. For remembering purpose, already I told you, whenever I am giving a particular value, say I am giving a value to you, say 1048, I am giving it to you, 1048. So what you will do, you will store that value inside your memory, isn't it? You will remember that value inside your memory, inside your brain. So for remembering that value, you are allocating some portion of your memory, brain memory. Okay. So After some time, when I call you and when I ask you to give that value back to me, so what you will do, you will simply recall that value, what value I have stored. When the sir has given me this value where I have stored, simply you recall that value and you will retrieve that value and you will give that value to me. Sir, you gave me like 1048. This value you told me to remember. Likewise, you will convey that value to me. In that same way, your computer will also dedicate some portion of memory to store the values. And those portions of memories are nothing but your variables. Okay? So it is very difficult for us to understand. I mean, it is very difficult for us to remembering the exact address of those memory locations, because when we discuss this hardware stuff, I told you that all the memory locations inside your computer will have a unique address, isn't it? Will have a unique address, and that address, it is very difficult for us to remember. So simply what we are doing, we are giving a name, we are giving an identifier. Already I told you, names are nothing but nouns, nouns are nothing but identifiers in programming, isn't it? So in order to remember that memory location address, we are giving a name to it. Okay, we are giving a flexible name to it, and that flexible name is nothing but your variable name, your identifier. And when we are framing this variable name, we have to follow that identifier rules. Whatever rules we discussed in identifiers, all those rules we have to follow. Okay, variables are named memory locations that have a type. Already I told you type, so we have discussed data types. So such as integer or character. So if it is an integer variable, it will take only 4 bytes of memory in 16-byte compiler, 16-bit compiler, and it will take 32-bit compiler, and it will take only 2 bytes of memory in 16-bit compiler. So the memory allocation, it is also dependent on the compiler. If your compiler is of 16-bit, it will take only 2 bytes. Your integer will take only 2 bytes. If it is 32-bit compiler, your integer will take 4 bytes. Okay, that is another concept. So in your programming, we basically discuss all these things. So variables are named memory locations that have a type such as integer or character. The type here determines the values that a variable may hold, because when you are giving the type, it is going to have a specific range of value, and you can store any value from that range only. Exceeding that range will give you some logical error. It is not syntactical error, but it will give you a logical error. Very soon we are going to discuss what is syntactical and what is logical error. Okay, so the type here determines the value that a variable may hold and operations that can be applied on that variable. Already we discussed, type not only gives the range of values but also gives the types of operations, type of operations that you can perform. So if you are storing integers, means you can perform only the arithmetic operations. If you are storing characters, means that kind of thing is not there. You can't perform the what we call arithmetic operations on characters, isn't it? Like every other object in C, a variable must be declared, defined, and initialized. These things are very, very important. Every object, whatever object you are going to use in your C programming, it must be declared, it must be defined, and it must be initialized. Declaring in the sense giving the name to it, giving the name to an object. So suppose if you are declaring a variable, declaring means giving a name. Okay, definition means specifying the type, and initializing means allocating the value, initializing the value, giving the value, storing the value. Okay, so let us say I want to use a variable. I want to use a variable. So first thing what I have to do, I have to decide the name for that variable. What I have to do, I have to decide the name for that variable. So let us say I want to give my variable name as a number. So ANUM, no space. So this is my name. So what I have done over here, when I have given the name, I have done the declaration. This is declaration. Okay, now what I have to do, taking a name is not sufficient. I have to give the memory to it, and I have to specify what values I want to store. Suppose if you want to store the characters, then take the data type as character. Suppose if you want to store the integers, take the data type as integer based on your range. Okay, so now I want to store integers into this enum variable. So my data type, it should be integer. So int, keyword int I am using before the variable name. So this entire thing will become definition. So from here to here, this is my definition. Okay, So this is my definition. So if I do initialize the value to it, let us say some 20, enum as 20. So from here to here, this entire thing will become initialization. So initialization. So why I am giving these lines over here? Why I am giving these lines over here means, see, without the declaration you can't do the definition. So if you are doing the definition, you must have to do the declaration. That is the reason why I have given this line over here. If you are doing the definition, you must have to do the declaration. And if you are doing the initialization, you must have to do both declaration as well as definition. That is the reason why I have given this line from here to here. Only initialization is not possible, and only definition is also not possible, and only declaration it is also not possible. Okay, so declaration, when you are doing at that same point only, you have to do the definition. Okay, declaration, definition generally we do together, and initialization you can do separately. Okay, declaration, definition you must have to do together, and initialization you can do afterwards in your programming. So in C, declaration means giving name to an object. Naming an object will be done with the help of identifiers. Already we discussed this thing. With the help of identifiers, what we are doing? We are naming the objects. So then we have definition. Yeah, definitions are used to create the object. Creation of object is nothing but allocating the memory to it. So the definition will allocate the memory to the object. And initialization will assign a specific value to the created object, to the defined object. Without initialization, this is a very important point. This point is very important. You have to remember. Without initialization, the variable will hold garbage value. What the variable will hold without initialization? It will hold the garbage value. This point is very important. If you don't do the initialization, you have done only the declaration and definition, then the variable will hold the garbage value. What is declaration? Giving the name to the variable is nothing but declaration. What is definition? Allocating the memory or specifying the type is nothing but definition. And what is initialization? Assigning a specific value to that variable is nothing but initialization. And if you don't do the initialization, the variable will hold some meaningless value, some unknown value. That unknown value, in our consideration, it will be garbage value. Why we are calling that value as a garbage value? In the sense, because it is no use to us. It is of no use to us. That is the reason why we are calling that value as the garbage value. Okay, so yeah, just now I told, in C, variable declaration and definition will be done at the same time. Already I have given this point to you. Variable declaration and variable definition will be done together, but initialization you can do according to the requirement. Okay, according to your requirement you can do the initialization. You have to do declaration and definition at the same time, but initialization you can do separately. Okay, remember these things. And variable declaration and variable definition, these two things has to be done at the same time. Once again, I am stressing this point over here. Okay, variable declarations are used, the name of the variable. Declaration is nothing but giving the name to the variable, and giving the name to the variable is nothing but giving an identifier to it. Name is nothing but noun. Noun in your natural language, and identifier in your programming language. See, this relativity, I mean, how you are relating the programming language with the real-time languages, it is very important. In real world, without the name, it is very difficult to identify the things, identify the objects, identify the real-time objects, isn't it? So if you don't have a name to a piece of chalk face, if you don't have a name to this pen, so how you are going to identify this pen? It is very difficult. Okay, that special thing, let us assume you have given that special thing to this pen. So what you will call the eraser as? Another special thing. Likewise, you give the name, isn't it? It is not possible. Without names, you can't identify. Simply, you can't identify the things. It will become very difficult. It will become very complex to understand the meaning of those objects in real world. In that same way, in programming also, whenever you are creating an object, you must have to give a specific name to it, specific identifier to it. And how these names are helpful to us? In order to identify the objects, we are using the names, isn't it? So that is the reason why in programming, we are calling the nouns as identifiers. We are calling the names as identifiers. You have to remember this thing. So variable declarations are used to name the variables. Naming the variable is nothing but giving an identifier to it. Okay. Variable definitions are used to allocate the memory. Okay, assigning the memory, okay, to the variable. Memory allocation is nothing but specifying the data type to the variable. How we are doing the memory allocation? Generally, we specify the data type to that variable so that we can tell the compiler that so and so range of values we can store into that variable, and so and so type of values we are going to store in that variable. Okay, variable declaration, variable definition, we are clear. So then generally how we do the variable declaration, you can see over here. So this is my type specification and this is my identifier specification. Code is my name to the object, name to the variable, and what type of value I am going to store into this one, I am specifying with the help of this character. So character code, character space code, when I am writing like this, what your compiler will understand, how your compiler will understand this particular statement. Code is the name of the variable and you are going to store the character into that code, character type of values into that code. Okay, so then integer I is the name of the variable and I am going to store integer type of values into that I. How much memory it will allocate? 4 bytes. If it is 32-bit compiler, it will allocate 4 bytes, and if it is 16-bit compiler, it will allocate 2 bytes for this integer variable. And what is my range? The range I have already shown into that table. Some 2 lakh, yeah, here you have that range. Once again we go and we see this range. Yeah, integer means here we have integers 4 bytes, and these are all my range of values. This is negative side and this is positive side if it is unsigned. If it is if it is signed. If it is unsigned, simply the range will get doubled. Okay, all those things slowly you will understand. When we do programming, you will understand. So then long, okay, another data type, and this bank deposit is my variable name. Bank deposit is my identifier and long is my type. Pay rate is my identifier, float is my type. Pi is my identifier, double is my type. So likewise. So then we have, yeah, a variable type can be any data type. It can be, depending on your requirement, you can take any data type to specify the type of your variable. It can be a character, it can be an integer, it can be a real, it can be anything. But you can't give the variable type as void, because when you are creating a variable, you are allocating some memory and you are storing some value. You can't make a void type of variable. This thing also you have to remember, and this thing also, it is an important point. You can't create a void type of variable. Void type is having some different usage that we will see. Simply remember, we can't create a variable of type void. So here you can't create a variable of type void, but cannot be a void type in the sense we can't create a variable of type void. Okay, to create a variable, first specify the type and then the name of the variable. Already we have seen many examples. Over here I am giving another. This price is my identifier, variable identifier, that is nothing but variable name. Okay, identifier is nothing but name of the variable, name of the variable, and its type is float. Its type is float. So one simple understanding we'll have over here. So just delete this one. So what I am doing now, I am creating a variable with name again enum, and my variable type is short enum. So now, how many bytes the computer will allocate for this enum? Simply go to your slide. If it is short int, how many bytes? 2 bytes. Okay, short int means 2 bytes. The size is 2 bytes. And what is identifier? Identifier is enum. And what is the range that we can store? Range of values that we can store. This minus 32,768 minus 32,768 to 0 to plus 32,767. This is my range of values. I can store 0 in this enum. I can store 1, 2, 3 up to 32,768. Same way, I can store 0. I can store minus 1, minus 2, minus 3 up to minus 32,768. So likewise, I can store the values into this one. Can I store plus 32,768 into this one? No, I can't. If you store the value plus 32,768, because it is exceeding the range, it will take that value in this direction. Simply, whatever value you store after this, it will come from here to like this. This side it will come. Here to here. This side it will come. So if you store plus 32,768, it will be considered as minus 32,768 in your computer. So that is the problem. So you have to store all the values within this range only. And if you want to store any value greater than this, because storing exceeding the range is a logical error. Exceeding the range is logical error. It is not syntactical error. Your compiler will not show the error. It is a logical error. Okay. So very soon you will understand what is logical error, what is syntactical error. Okay. Exceeding the range is an logical error. You will not get the correct result. If you exceed the range, you will not get the correct result. And if you want to use any values beyond this, simply go for integer, because integer's range is high. If you want to use somewhere 64,000, let us say your calculation is going up to 64,000. Okay, 64,000. One way is you can make it as and only positive values. If your range is going to 64,000 and you are using only positive values, means you can make it as unsigned. You can make it as unsigned short. Then what will happen? The range simply it will get 0 to some 65,568, something like this it will go. Isn't it? It will go something like this, and it is positive only. There will be no negative value side. There will be no negative value side. So if it is unsigned short enum, then the range is going like this. Nothing will change. Size will remain 2 bytes only. Identifier will be enum only, but the range will change over here. The range is going like this. Okay, from 0 to positive side only. You will not have any negative side because we made it as unsigned. Means we are not following any sign right now. All my values are positive values only if it is unsigned. So like this you can do. Or if you are using more greater value than somewhere, if you are using like 70,000, 80,000, then your short variable will not satisfy your need. If your final value is going, if your calculation is going up to 70,000, 80,000, then short integer will not satisfy your range. Then you have to go for integer to get a bigger range. To get a higher level of range, you have to go for integer. And if you are exceeding the integer range also, then go for long. And if you are exceeding the long also, then go for long likewise. Long likewise. Hopefully you understood this concept. So quickly, yeah, this variables we discussed, variable declaration, definition we discussed. Yeah, you can do the multiple declarations also at the same time by simply separating with a comma. So float balance like this you can do, or float price. Two separate statements for declaring two different variables. The declaration and definition of two different variables. Balance, I have declared, I have given the name and I have specified the type. I have done the definition. Price, same thing. I have declared the name and I have given the type also. So definition also I have done. So in these two statements also you can do, two separate statements also you can do, or just to minimize the code, just to optimize the code, you can do both the things in a single statement. Float balance comma price, like this you can do. Float balance comma price, like this you can do. Hopefully you understood. Okay, so the next thing, yeah, you can do separately or you can do inside a single statement. Multiple variable declaration, not only two, you can declare multiple, like n number, a comma b comma c and so on. You can declare any number of variables you want in your programming simply by separating with a comma separator. Simply by separating with a comma separator, you can declare any number of variables into your program if they are of same type. If they are of same type. Let us assume if you want one variable of type character and another variable of type integer and another variable of type float. You can't do all these things in a single statement. You have to do separately only. Character ch, integer I, float f, like this you have to do. Separately you have to do. But if the variables, all the variables of same type, then you can do inside a single statement simply by separating with a comma. Like this you can do. Then variable initialization, simply by using the assignment operator, equals to operator, we can initialize the value. Over here we have initialize. Variables can be initialized at the same time when they are defined. That means declaration also done. Okay, that is, in a single statement it is possible to do the variable declaration, variable definition, and variable initialization. In a single statement we can do. So declaration, giving the name, here I have done. Definition, specifying the type, here I have done. Then giving the value, assigning the value, initialization, here I have done. Declaration, definition, initialization. Three things we are doing inside a single statement. So now this price variable, it is of type float and it is holding the value 3.759. Likewise. So to initialize the values, what we are doing? We are simply using the assignment operator equals to sign. Okay, like how we do in your mathematics. In that same way we do the initialization in your programming. Just to assign the value 3.759 to that variable price, we are using the assignment operator. Learning C, if you know the mathematics rules, it is very easy. Okay, so multiple variable initialization you can't do inside a single statement. So assuming float balance comma price equals to 3.759 and expecting this 3.759 to be stored in price as well as to be stored in balance, it is illegal. It is not correct. So when you do like this, float of balance comma price equals to 3.759, only price will become 3.759. Still balance is uninitialized. Still the balance is uninitialized. If not initialized properly, then this balance will hold garbage value, unknown value, meaningless value, value of no use to us. So that is the reason why we are calling it as garbage value. These things you have to remember. So whenever you are doing the initialization properly, the variable will hold that specific value. If you're not doing the initialization, then the variable will hold the meaningless value, unknown value. Okay, garbage value in short we can say. So yes, to avoid that confusion, whatever confusion we have over here, initializing the values inside a single statement and expecting that 3.759 to be stored both in price as well as balance, I told you it is illegal. It is not correct. It is not valid. So what we are doing? We are doing the initialization, we are doing the declaration, definition and initialization into separate statements. So like this, it is a legitimate statement and valid statement. Doing like this, it is completely correct. Okay, now we have done the declaration, definition and initialization for balance over here and done the declaration, definition and initialization for price over here. So now two of my variables, they are holding specific values, okay, respectively, and they are not holding any garbage value, any meaningless value. Okay, so this is about variables. Now we have the concept of constants. Okay, what is the time? Okay, it is more than an hour, so we'll stop the discussion over here itself. And after the discussion of these constants, we have like two more things. One is the differences between syntactical and logical errors we have to understand, and the difference between source code and object code we have to understand. Okay, in one more session, hardly in one more session, I will do the explanation of constants, that syntactical logical errors, and also the source code, object code. These three concepts we will discuss. Not only the discussion of these three concepts, we'll have a quick revision on all the concepts so far whatever we discussed in our first unit, and with that I will conclude the first unit and I will give the assignment to you. You have to submit the assignment before the deadline set by me, and accordingly I will award the assignment marks. Okay, hopefully you understood the importance of these things. Yeah, very soon we are going to do all these things, and hardly in one class I'm going to wind up this complete stuff and I'm going to start your second unit. And believe me, as we are on pace right now, we have acquired some speed right now, and I want to maintain this speed because there is a deadline of semester, and before that semester I have to complete your 5 units. It is already so much of time I have given to you people in making you these stuff clear. Okay, the basics we are now acquired, and I advise you to do the practice, regular practice on these concepts, especially CSE and IT people. You have to focus more on these stuff and attend, if you have the doubts, attend the doubt clarification sessions. Okay, offline we are conducting doubt clarification sessions. You can come and you can clarify your doubts on Monday and Tuesday. Okay, you have to follow the strict COVID-19 rules, and you have to approach the faculty, you have to clarify your doubts. Only to those who are having doubts and nearby to the college they can approach. If you are living far away, don't use the public transport to reach the college. Don't don't simply rush for it. We are there for you, we are ready to help you through online media. Also, I'm clarifying your doubts. If you have a doubt, you can simply ping me online, you can make a call to me. I'm ready to advise you whenever it is possible. I shared my email IDs, I shared my personal contact numbers, and regularly we are coming in touch with you. So whenever it is possible, just try to clarify your doubts. And the assignments, they are very, very important. You just approach your seniors to know the importance of these assignments. Okay, very soon we are going to have internals. Okay, there you will understand the importance of attendance. There you will understand the importance of these assignments. See, once got stuck up means it is very difficult to take you out of these issues, take you out of these problems. And I want you people, don't be a victim of these kind of issues, because these are all unnecessary issues. Like attendance issue, it is an unnecessary issue. Now we are offline, anyhow you can attend the videos at any time. We are not closing the links till the end of the day, isn't it? When we are posting the video till the end of the day, we are not closing any links. Simply watch my videos, attend the sessions, answer the questionnaire whatever I'm asking in the attendance link, and post the attendance accordingly. So that will give the attendance to you people. Even if you don't do this much of thing, nobody can help you out. Hopefully you understand the importance of all these things, and do all these things punctually. Okay, thank you very much, students.